Hey bros, wanna hear a story from the zone? Okay boss. Right, here I go. So, there were these dudes, the Renegades. They were basically like us bandits, but they didn't care about maintaining order and everything. They were in a strong disagreement with our boss at the time. You see, when the garbage first became a place of interest, various clans of bandits like us united under the command of Yoga and created the Bandit Faction as we know today. But not all guys were okay with that, and some other big bad dude called Borzij decided to create his own faction, and that's how the Renegades came to be. That was not long before the first big emission of September. You know, the one which opened up new routes to undiscovered places. So the Renegades took opportunity of these changes in the zone to search for new territories and to establish their base. That's when the faction split in two. The rookies and less experienced members remained at the edge of the zone and decided to conquer the newly accessible swamps to establish a first temporary base. Meanwhile, the most badass members packed up the best equipment and went north to find the perfect spot for their main base. We're gonna talk about that second group, which was led by Borzij himself. They were really a force to be reckoned with. These guys were killers. Anyway, they made their way to the Red Forest with the intent to go to Limansk, but they were too late. Duty and Freedom had already crossed the deadly river, and the only known bridge leading to the other side had been raised. But Borzij and his men would not give up, and somehow they managed to find another way to get across. To this day, no one knows how they made it, but some say it might have something to do with these weird space anomalies. After that, all sorts of stalkers tried to capture the bridge, but the Renegades were tough, and they held on. Well, they did, until a strange faction and mercenaries united their forces, which forced the Renegades to abandon their position and retreat a bit to the south. And that is when they found a mysterious city, hidden beyond the Antar. And I'm not talking about the abandoned Limansk or the ghost town Pripyat. No, I'm talking about another, smaller but even more secret settlement. This city was in fact so secret that its former name has been forgotten, and now stalkers only refer to it as the Dead City. Why this name? Most likely it first came from the fact that this place was full of zombies when the Renegades arrived. But it was not the zombified bodies of former stalkers. No, it was actually the former residents of the city, which were turned into living corpses years ago. The thrilling thing was that the zombies were almost acting like normal citizens. They were moving around town, going from their apartments to workplace. It was as if they had kept their habits from their interior life. And they weren't even aggressive at first. Still, the remaining renegades dealt with most of the zombies, and they established their camp in the school. For a time, the city was theirs. All of this changed a bit later, when a large squad of mercs arrived into town. The Renegades did not have enough resources left to engage into a fight with the professional mercenaries, so they had no other choice than to let them take control over the sports center building. A sort of mutual, non-spoken agreement of ceasefire quickly established between the two groups, and soon the city was split in half. The north belonged to the mercs, and the south to the renegades. Things stayed like that for a bit, but Borzij was trying to find a way to retake full control of the city. The most important thing for him was to find out what the mercs were doing here, because if their mission was over, they would probably leave. It was risky, but he sent some of his men to spy onto the mercs via the underground sewers. Soon it turned out that what they were looking for was a secret lab, which was supposedly located below the city. And sure as hell they found it. According to the story, hell let loose when they cracked the vault open. Nobody knows what type of unethical experiments they used to be doing down there, but some sort of parasite virus escaped from the laboratory and started to spread around in the dead city. It was truly an horrible thing. The spores would attach to someone's head, eventually covering it completely, and start to devour the brains of the subject. While that was happening, the poor dude was still moving around, trying to approach unaffected targets. If you got too close to one of those things, it would shoot a cloud of poisonous spores at you, and you would become infected as well. The situation was critical, and in a short turn of events, almost all of the renegades and some mercenaries were turned into those spore zombies. Soon enough, it was too late for the renegades, who were down to a handful of men. In a final effort, Borzij and the last survivors killed as many parasites as they could, but they were overwhelmed. In the end, they turned their guns against themselves to avoid an horrible fate. Eventually, mercenary reinforcements arrived, and they say that they made a good job at cleaning up and containing the virus. From this moment, the city was sealed off once again from the rest of the zone. And since then, nobody dares to get to that territory, in fear of catching a parasite. And this is how the last members of the Renegades made their ultimate demise. So remember, boys, the freaking labs better remain closed. There's nothing good down there.